Alright, so this is project number 8, and we're going to be creating a surfing festival poster. In this, you're going to learn how to create some of your own custom swatches, also how to do some special effects with different images, and also some special things to break up text into multiple text boxes. So to get started, I won't save what I have here. Do make sure that you download the festival or surfing stages poster project file from the class page. When we go into InDesign, before we create a new document, go to InDesign, down to Preferences, and open up your units and increments. If you remember in our last project, whenever we do our units and increments, it was being measured in picas. If you change the unit of measure to inches before you create a document, and say OK, now when I go to File and create a new document, it'll automatically set everything up into inches, which is a little bit more comfortable for when everybody's working with. For this document, we want it to be 11 inches wide by 17 inches tall. Remember, I do have preview turned on so I can see what it looks like. We want to give it a 1-inch margin. So I'm going to click on the link icon. So whatever I type in 1 here, it automatically puts 1 in all the other ones. And we'll give it a 1/4 of an inch bleed on all sides. So 0.25 and 1, because it's linked together, should add it to all the other ones. Again, we're working on just one page, and we don't really need to turn on facing pages for now. We'll say OK. And the first thing that we need to do is to save our document as an InDesign file. I'm going to call mine poster.indd. Remember to make sure to save this into the folder that you're going to be creating things on. That way all of your links link back nice and easily to that one. The first thing we're going to do is to create some custom swatches. We need to open up the Swatches panel. If your panels are kind of all messed up the way mine are, you can always go to Window, down to Workspace. I've got Essentials selected, so I'm going to reset my Essentials, and that'll put everything kind of back into place where I can easily find them. The Swatches panel is located down here at the very bottom, but remember, if you don't see it, you can always go to Window. In our case, we can go to Color and choose Swatches to open it that way. And I'll drag it up to see this. With the Swatches panel open, click on the Options at the top right-hand side, and we're going to create a new swatch. So, New Color Swatch. Make sure it's set to Process and CMYK, and we're going to set the definitions for the C, M, Y, and K values, cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. So the first one will be 100% cyan, 0 magenta, 100 yellow, and a black of 25. So that'll give us this green kind of swatch. When you're finished this, we want to uncheck Add to CC Library so it doesn't add it to that. Then we're going to click the Add button to add it to our Swatches panel. And you can see here it is down here at the very bottom. Let's do the same thing for 2 more swatches. For color, the next one, we'll set this one to 100, hit the Tab key, 100, 25, and 0. That'll give us a purple. We'll add that one. And one more swatch of 40, 0, 0, and 100. And that'll give us a dark blue with a little bit of blue added into that. Hit Add for this one. The next kind of swatch that we want to create is a spot color. So change your color type from Process to Spot. Then click on CMYK, and we're going to choose Pantone Metallic. So we need to scroll down. Here's Pantone Metallic coded. And from here we can choose an individual Pantone color. We can type in the number. In this case it's 8005. And that'll give us this kind of brownish color. We'll click Add, and that'll add that Pantone to here as well. Notice that when I chose Pantone, the little icon is a little bit different, and it's a spot color versus a process color. Once we're finished with this, we can hit Done, and we'll return back to our Swatches panel to start building out the project. I'll save it from here. So with it open, let's choose our rectangle tool, just a regular rectangle. In our Swatches palette, make sure that the fill color is on top. So I've clicked on this one, and we're going to choose that black swatch that we created. So that'll fill it in with that particular color. If we click on the stroke swatch, we can set the stroke color to be none, and that's at the very top. So now when I click and drag, create a black rectangle that starts at the top of our bounding box, our bleed box, and goes all the way down to the bottom edge of our bleed box, goes over the entire thing. Now let's open up our layers and we'll lock it down. In the layers panel, we'll open up layer 1 and we'll click on the right here to lock down that particular rectangle. That means it won't be able to be moved around. You can see the little lock icon right there. While I still have my rectangle, let's set our stroke to be that custom green swatch that we created. This one here, so that's set to our stroke. And we'll make a box that's inside of our margin area. The margin is the pink, so click and drag over that. So we can see it. We're going to turn off visibility of this one by clicking on that little icon. So now all I see is this area. One thing I neglected to do is let's set that stroke that's green to be 6 point. I'll type in 6, hit return. Now you can see the green stroke that's around it. If we wanted to make a gradient swatch, in our swatches panel, click on the options at the top right, choose new gradient swatch. And in this one, it allows you to choose what color your stops are down at the very bottom. So if we click on this first white one, notice now our colors pop up. Make sure it's set to linear, and we're going to choose the custom stop color that we created. So under CMYK, choose swatches, and then scroll down and choose our custom green that we have. For the second swatch, click on the black, and the type of swatch we want to do is that custom blue that we created. So it's going to go from green to blue. Give it that name, so select our new gradient, call it green to blue, and we can click add, and that will add it to our swatch down here. Once we're done, hit done. I've got my rectangle selected now. We'll set the fill color to be our new green to blue swatch. That'll fill it in with that one. And we'll choose our rectangle, or excuse me, our stroke. We'll also make that a green to blue swatch as well. To change the direction of our gradient, so select our little rectangle. We're going to go to Window, down to Color. Let's open up the Gradient panel. This Gradient panel will allow you to not only change the position of the stops within this object, but also change the angle of it. So let's rotate it to 90 degrees, hit return. Notice that I had the stroke selected, so let's undo that. Make sure the fill is on top, so the fill selected. Now we can set our angle to be 90 degrees, and the fill of this one is set to that. That done, let's also change the size of this one to be 10 inches tall. So you can see up in our control panel the height of it. Type in 10, hit return, and so now you've got more of a squared off at the bottom. This is where we'll place our pictures, and this is where I'll place our text at the bottom of the page. Now let's go in and change the angle of our stroke. I'm going to set the stroke at the very front, make sure it's selected, stroke's on top, and we're going to set that angle to be negative 90. So negative 90. Now you can see once we go into preview mode, our stroke is going an opposite gradient of what our fill color is, and that's the way it should look. Oops, cancel, hit W. If you want to preview whatever it looks like, you can look at the very top of your screen or the bottom of your toolbox. At the very bottom, you get some different preview options. Normally we work in normal, but if you choose preview, that'll turn off all of our guides and go into give you a preview of what it would look like once it's actually printed. You can also find this up here at the top by clicking on the middle icon, going back to normal, so I can see all of our guides and our bounding boxes. Now let's place a graphic inside of our frame. Go to File, down to Place, and we want to choose the Outline Illustrator file. I've got mine on my desktop. Outline, Adobe Illustrator, which will give you this nice surfer dude. Say Open. Now if I click inside of my box, it's going to place him inside of there. I don't want to do that. So let's go to Edit and Undo. And I want to click just outside of my box, right about here, and that way he gets his own box that's on top of the frame that we're working in. To place him exactly where he needs to go, we'll go up to our control panel, and the X position should be 0.5, and the Y position will be 2 inches. I hit return, that'll place him exactly where he is, slightly overlapping the box that we created. With our selection tool, the black arrow, I want you to hold down the control key and click on your object. Then we'll go down to, excuse me, you shouldn't hold down control. Just select your object, go up to the very top, go to Object, Clipping Path, and choose Options. And we're going to convert this clipping path into a frame that we can use. So the type of clipping path that we want to use will detect the edges, the outer edges of it. And if we turn on preview, you can see what that will look like. We do want to include the inside edges, that way it gets the inside of his legs. And then we'll say OK. And now I've got the content that's inside of this. To make it into a frame, go back up to Object, Clipping Path, and we want to convert our clipping path to an actual frame. With that selected, you can see it turns it blue. And what I can do is I can use my direct selection tool, my white arrow, to click on the black inside of it, and then press the delete key to delete it away. So now I'm left with a frame that's in the shape of my little surfer dude, but it's got no content inside of it. You can actually see the X running through it. Let's put something inside of it. Use our selection tool to click on the little surfer frame, go to File and Place, and let's actually choose the Surf JPEG, this JPEG. Hit Open, and you can see our Surf JPEG is placed nicely inside the empty area. To move it around, hover over the center of it till you get the little content grabber wheel, click on that, and we're going to set the X and Y location for that one to be exactly 0, 0. And that'll move it up into its proper place. Finally, let's place a picture in the very back of it. So I'm going to choose my rectangle frame, and we'll place the same photo. Go to File and Place, choose the surf picture again, and say Open. Now because I had my frame selected, it automatically placed it inside of the frame. But you can see it's off by just a little bit. We want those to line up nice and perfectly. I'm going to hover over this image and get my grabber. I double-clicked to get into it. And we'll set the X position to be -0.5 and the Y position to be 1. When it's done, it should line up nice and perfectly onto your frame. If it's off by a little bit like mine, what I do is double-click and then move it until you can nudge it down right into place. Then I can escape to get out of that content. Okay, now we can click on the frame. And let's open up the Effects panel. Go to Window, down to Effects. I'm going to use the Direct Selection tool to select the content. And you can see when I chose the content, my effects changed up just a little bit. We're going to change the blending mode from this, from normal to choose screen. And you can see it changes the color. It screens in and picks up some of that blue in the very back. Also, we're going to click on the little effects at the very bottom right hand corner, and the effect we want to choose is a gradient feather. This will open up this dialog box. We're going to change the direction of it, turn on preview so we can see it, to be -90 for the angle. But we also want the top of it to be at the very top. So let's change the position of the black stop. We'll put the white one on the left side and the black one on this side so it reverses out. You can also click here and that will reverse those two. As long as the black's on the right side and your angle set to -90, that is correct. We can say OK, and you can see that fades our picture into the area we're working with. Last thing we're going to do, let's choose our regular selection tool, the black arrow. Click on the little surfer icon. Let's add a drop shadow to him. With our effects still open, one of the effects that we can quickly add is a drop shadow. To add it, however, look at the very top of your control panel, click here just once, and we'll use the default drop shadow that's been added. This is a good place to stop, and we'll do a save. And in the next video, we'll continue on adding more content.